Tiny, speaking of company taxes, personal taxes, and etc., what are actually the main challenges with taxes?
Okay, the main challenge with tax is because, let's say you've got a supplier. Let's say very simply, your supplier is 30 days. Okay, let's say you've got an account and they allow you to pay it off in 30 days. All right, you go back to a painting company. During the month, you go to the paint shop, you put it on your account, and then they give you 30 days to pay. All right. That means that there's your discipline. It's 30 days because they'll just cut you off. If you haven't paid your bill, they'll give you a phone call, blah, blah, blah. With taxes, it's 90 days and it's 365 days. So each 3 months, your GST is due and they give you a month to pay that. At the end, your income tax, when you do your taxes, you've got till 22nd of April the following year. So you've almost got 10 months afterwards when you finish your financial year to do your bookwork, and then they'll give you a tax bill. This is where it becomes very tricky. Everybody ends up owing the tax department a lot of money simply because they haven't budgeted. So if let's say you know your closing rate, you know what your estimated profit's going to be. You've got this system down pat, and so you know you're going to earn $200,000 in a year. Okay, so that's about $4,000 a week. You just look up roughly what that is per year for the tax department. Now let's call it simple figures, $52,000 a year that you're going to owe the tax department. So out of your $200,000, $52,000 you're going to give to the tax department, you're going to keep $148,000. So that means each week you need to put aside $1,000 into a separate bank account, okay? That's the easiest way of doing it and the self-discipline, because the last thing you want to be doing at the end of the financial year is going, okay, my year's finished, I'm starting a new year. Then what happens is you give the accountant the books in January or February. They end up finishing it in March before the due date of 22nd of April, and next minute you've received a $65,000 tax bill, and you've gone, but hold on, I've paid my taxes. No, well, you've paid your taxes on maybe a $60,000 or $70,000 a year income. You've had a great year. All of a sudden, that great year, you've decided, well, let's do that extra trip, or get that nicer car, or, a bit of extra pocket money, blah, 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 blah. And so now, the following year might not be as good as the first year, but you still owe money from the first year. Now, this is where it becomes really complicated, okay? So, let's say you owe the tax department $65,000. You need to earn $65,000 extra over the last 3 months of the financial year. If you do earn those $65,000 more, you owe then $32,000 on that 65. Then you've got to earn that 32, which means you owe another 16,000. So it becomes really tricky, because then you end up going on a payment plan with the tax department. Your motivation is lost simply because you feel like, oh God, all I do is, I'm paying this big tax bill. You've lifted your standard of living simply because of the first lot of money. Now you've got to bring your standard down because you don't have enough. You have to work more to pay for your tax, and it is really challenging to go to work and say, okay, well, this week I'm working for the tax department until Thursday, and Friday is my actual income day. So once again, work out what your goal is, what your business is going to do. You do not have to be perfect at this, okay? You can just do an estimate and then just add 10%. Like getting your taxes done at the end of the financial year, a few weeks later, and then working out, oh, I've overpaid my tax and the tax department will give you back $4,000 or $5,000 is a lot better than 9-10 months later receiving a $65,000 tax bill and going, how am I going to pay this? And then going on a payment plan for years and years and years until your business goes into liquidation. But if your business does go into liquidation, you will still owe that tax debt for the rest of your life. So be very careful. The challenge you face with the tax department is two things. If you make a great income, you've got to give them 50% of your income. If you lose money, they don't lose it with you. If you lose $100,000, they don't come and say, well, you've been really great for the last 5 years. You've given us, every time you've made money, you've given us half. Now you've lost money. We don't want to know you. Okay, they're not going to give you $50,000 if you lose $100,000. They're not going to chip in. Okay, so just be really careful. Set it up so that you know roughly what you're going to earn. You know roughly what your taxes are, and just send it to the tax department. You know, you can send it every week. It doesn't matter. You can automatically have it taken out of your account and send it to them. And at the end of the year, when you do your books, you're fine.
Can it be stressful when the taxes come and a person does not have enough finance to support that, to pay out the debt?
It becomes very stressful because what happens is that no matter who you are, unless you've been in the business 30 or 40 years, you doing appointments when you've got stress and the customer, you know, you're doing quotes simply because you have to get the money and you're not there to serve them. You're there to sort of go, okay, I need these jobs. The customer will feel that. Like your closing rate will go down. So all of a sudden, let's take it this way. Your closing rate might be 30%. You have 10 phone calls a day. Your closing rate goes down to 20%. You can't do anything about it simply because you're stressed. You then need to put more money into marketing to get the 15 phone calls a day instead of 10. So now there's the stress of the fact that you need an extra, let's call it $10 a phone, $10 a call. So you need an extra $50 a week, which ends up being tens of thousands of dollars at the end of the year, more because you need the phone to ring more, because you need, your closing rate has dropped because you're stressed. So it's this big formula. It's not, if you do it right, it's not stressful, okay? If you do it right and you plan it and you run your business the way you need to run your business. So I think we talked about this before. It's like this massive cake, and all the ingredients have to be almost perfect, otherwise the cake doesn't work. Mm-hmm. All right? So think about it over the long term. You know, if you're doing well, I say to people have asked me, look, I've just got this free contract and I'm going to make $100,000 on this job. You know, what should I do? I said, the first thing you should do is send the tax department $50,000. Oh, but my tax bill won't be that. It doesn't matter. Send them $50,000, okay? And do whatever you want with the other $50,000 and continue your normal steps. At the end of the year, if you only needed to send them $34,000 instead of $50,000, guess what? They're going to refund you $16,000, and you can spend it whichever way you want because it's a refund, okay? So generally each year, over the last 35 odd years or 40 years, I've received refunds because I've slightly overpaid, okay? So at the end of the financial year, I don't have to worry. There's no stress, there's no nothing. I do my work. The accountant sort of says, what do you think you're going to get as a return? I said, $4,000. He goes, well, it's $4,200. It's not, on the big picture, it's not a lot of money, but I don't have to pay him anything. You know, I don't have this bill that I've got to go, oh, here's another bill I've got to find. Especially if you haven't done your bookwork, when you haven't kept up everything, or you've had a great year and you've just decided to spend a bit more than you should, okay, and you receive a $65,000 tax bill. There's nothing the tax department can do. They're not going to say, oh, well, you're a really nice guy, we're going to give you a 20% discount off your 65. No, they want their 65K.